Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Feeney and today we're going to be going over some lab safety procedures, the do's and don'ts of 1 year in the laboratory. We're doing this because we're about to get in some fun experiments. Chemistry labs are a lot of fun, and in order to allow that privilege to you to be able to enter them and do those experiments, you need to understand some lab safety protocols. So that you can keep yourself safe as well as your classmates when you're working in there, so that nobody gets hurt. So let's dive into some lab safety procedures. What do we say? So first, we're going to start with safety equipment. What will you expect to see to protect yourself when you're working in the lab? So the first and foremost are going to be goggles. You're definitely going to be wearing goggles when you're in the lab. They do a great job of protecting your eyes. So you need to be aware of these. You might also see face shields. They protect your whole face as the name suggests. They do a great job at this, especially your mouth chemicals could go into there. They protect that. The other big one is the aprons that you see here. That's going to be a very big part of lab. It protects it's a good line of defense for your clothing. If there is a chemical spill, it protects you and your clothing from getting contaminated. And so you're going to be working with a lot of hot things in the lab. There's these things called Bunsen burners, and we're going to heat up some cool chemicals and see what happens. So in order to handle those things, we have two tools available to us. We have tongs, as well as these orange heat-resistant gloves that you see. And lastly, a common item you will see are gloves, non-latex, nitrile, most likely gloves to protect your hands, so that way if you get any chemicals on you, you'll be able to simply remove your gloves and put them in the correct hazardous waste bin, so that you don't carry any of those chemicals with you outside the lab, or you don't get harmed in any way. So first and foremost, you will not be allowed in the laboratory if you have these things. Before you enter the lab, if you have long hair, I am going to ask you to tie it up. When hair is dangling down when you're doing experiments, that could interfere. You're not allowed to enter the lab with loose clothing or jewelry. Again, these could hang down or get caught, and you could trip, fall, drop a chemical. This could all lead to very bad things. You're not allowed to wear open-toed shoes. This means sandals. Only closed and secure shoes are allowed within the lab. This is to protect your feet. Again, if you drop something, accidents happen. If you drop something and spill, this protects your shoes, as well as pants. I'm going to ask you to wear pants in the lab for the same reason. And there's no eating or drinking in the lab. You will not be allowed to bring in food or drinks in there. You will have to drink all your water you can beforehand. And if you brought a soda or a drink with you, you can leave it in the classroom and drink it after lab. You're not allowed to eat or drink in the lab. You're not even allowed to bring it in there. And this includes chewing gum. You're not allowed to chew gum while you're in the lab. And you can't eat or drink any chemicals in the lab. I feel like that goes without saying, but I feel like I should note that anything within the lab already, especially you should not eat or drink. So what I expect from you as a teacher in the lab. So we do have a code of conduct in the lab. As I've stated already, a lot of these chemicals could be harmful to you, and they do pose a threat if you mishandle them and you mistreat them. If you follow lab safety procedures and protocol, no harm will come to you. It is okay. We have step-by-step process, and this is what this video is for, is to help you become acquainted with some lab safety. So first, I'm going to ask you to be respectful within the lab. That means no yelling, no running, no throwing, no horseplay, no goofing around. The experiments are going to be fun, and I want you to enjoy them. So it is a privilege, not a right, to be in this lab. And in order for you to keep that privilege, I need to ask you to be respectful and to not goof around, and to respect the chemicals for your health and your fellow students' health. So another way to do that is to be prepared when you come to lab. Read the lab ahead of time. Know the safety precautions. And if you violate any of these, I will remove you from the lab. So accidents do happen, though, and this is why we need to be prepared for them. We need to understand the steps to take if something does happen. It's okay, but The biggest takeaway, if something does happen and an accident, you drop a flask or something, notify the teacher immediately. Tell them what was wrong. Tell them exactly what happened, what you dropped, where you dropped it immediately. And if you can't, then ask a fellow classmate to go grab the teacher who is able. You may drop something, and it's okay. But you need to act fast. You need to contact a teacher. Don't let anything go. Don't suck it up and be like, oh, I can just handle this. No, contact the teacher. There's first aid kits available for you. You can go to the nurse. There's eye wash stations and showers. Also, if you have an unknown allergy, there will be an EpiPen available. So emergency procedures. So in the event of, let's say, a fire in the lab or a gas leak or something, know where the nearest exits are, and the teacher will ask you to promptly use those exits. Spills, again, if you spill something, don't try and grab for it. Let it fall. It's okay. And as soon as it does fall, let the teacher know immediately what fell and where, and they will clean it up. There is a first aid kit within the lab if you need it for immediate care if an accident does occur. So if you do drop something and the spill gets on you, what do you do? What are the steps? So if you get something in your eye, you're going to go to this eye wash station here, and you're going to flush out your eyes with the station for 15 minutes continually. Sometimes it's a little gross, but you might have to lift up your eyelid and rinse out the contaminated eye facing down. So this is important because chemicals are bad, and some chemicals are bad, and you don't want them to be sitting in your eye. So immediately go to the eye wash station to start flushing them out. Same goes for any other part of your body. We have these showers here. And if you get something on the rest of your body, you're going to go to the shower, you're going to use it, and you're going to remove any contaminated clothing that you have. They do have a modesty curtain so that you can remove that clothing. Again, in the event of a fire, don't panic. Notify the teacher immediately, sound the alarm, exit room in an orderly fashion. If you are on fire yourself, employ the stop, drop, and roll method. Everybody learned this in grade school, or use the shower. If using an extinguisher, use the pass, the pull, the pin, aim the nozzle, squeeze the trigger, and sweep from the outside of the flames into the center. You're going to be handling a lot of chemicals, and some of them might be dangerous. So it's important to know what the labels on the bottles mean. So 1, only handle chemicals that you're allowed to, and the teacher gives you specific instructions to say you can. Never handle anything that the teacher says you can't or doesn't allow permission. So here we have a variety of different labels. A poison, combustible, biohazard, explosive, high voltage, and corrosive are some of the main ones that you'll see within the lab. Please familiarize yourself with these labels. So again, accidents happen. If you do have broken glass, never try to clean it up yourself. Contact the teacher. You will not get in trouble. It's okay. Contact the teacher, tell them where the glass is, tell them what was in the flask, if there was something in there. Do not try to pick it up yourself, especially not with your bare hands. And a lot of these chemicals might have aromas to them. Never sniff them. And that means taking a flask and taking a big waft. Always waft it towards your face. This minimizes the risk of any harmful chemicals damaging your body. So once all these experiments are done, you had fun, you enjoyed, you saw some cool explosion or some light or color changes, clean up after yourself. Make sure all chemical waste is disposed of properly through teacher instructions. Never just dump chemicals down the drain unless the teacher says so. Never assume you can. Always leave the bottle there and ask the teacher what to do with it. And once you're done with your experiment and your lab bench is all clean, please wash your hands with soap and water. And there might be a point where you work with animals. So we're going to ask you to wear 1, be respectful. There are a lot of people who may not agree with the dissection of animals, of dead animals. And you need to respect their opinions and go on with the lab. And a lot of the preservatives may be toxic. So I'm going to ask you to wear the proper PPE, the gloves, apron, eye protection. And also that goes for living animals. Living animals might carry diseases. Handle them properly, wash your hands, and again, show respect. And never bring anything into the class unless asked for unless given permission by the teacher. So that concludes all the lab safety talks I'd like to talk about today. The last point I'd like to make is ask questions. If there's anything you're unsure about with lab safety, please ask. The teacher is there for you to help you through this process. And I am here to make sure that you have a fun, enjoyable, but also safe experience when in the lab and running experiments. Thank you. I'm just going to ask you to do a quiz. It's 10 questions. All the content on the quiz is directly pulled from the video. So I'm going to ask you to please complete that. And at the end, there's a fun little game here where you're going to circle a minimum of 5 lab safety hazards within this picture. There's a lot more than 5, but please circle at least a minimum of 5. Have fun with it. And I'm going to send home a contract with you. You're going to sign this as well as your parents. And then here are my references in case you're curious. Thank you all, and stay safe.